Okay, so here's the deal, man. As you can see, your man Snoop Dogg is blazing it up and raising it up, Dizzle. The West Coast and smash. It's your homie Big Snoop Deal Double Jizzle. Smoke one with your dog. I know I do a horrible Snoop Dogg impression, but nothing's worse than my Snoop Lion impression. But anyways, now Snoop Dogg is one of those rappers who people have bitched and moaned about for years, saying things like, man, you know, Snoop's lyrics and blah blah blah, you know, he's talking about this, he's talking about that, the drug references, you know, Snoop is a legendary pothead, you know, and he's one of the people that have been called out over the years. And it's so interesting that addictions.com posted an interesting article. The name of the article is Drugs in Music, Analyzing Drug References in Musical Genres. I'm going to read this article to you, and I know it's going to make half of your head spin. The rest of y'all already knew this already. Here's what they wrote. Drugs in music. Music and recreational substance abuse share a historic bond going back generations before the first fan was able to purchase a recording. History recounts countless examples of hymns sung by sailors celebrating the idea of drinking and other questionable activities. However, attitudes regarding drug abuse in music took an abrupt turn in the 1930s when American jazz musicians, pause start right there, in other words, Negroes, American jazz musicians became some of the first truly international recording artists. The art changed forever when listeners suddenly had the option to take the songs they loved home with them and enjoy them at any time. Today, music is more accessible than ever before. Coincidentally, so are illicit drugs. U.S. President Richard Nixon even launched his controversial, quote, war on drugs at the height of the dissident-fueled golden age of rock and roll in 1971. Parents of confused teens were shocked when it appeared musicians were no longer simply referencing intoxication, but actually encouraging it. But can famous artists really be contributing to rising addiction rates? Which forms of music tend to demonstrate more drug-related themes? New research reveals surprising answers. Has music gotten worse over time? Genres and drugs over the years. You see, now they showed a graph, and in 1933 things were really low. Then they started to pick up around 1970 or so, and then they got significantly higher in the 90s. By the time 2003 came around, they were pretty high, but it really skyrocketed around 2009, 2010, and then things dropped off in recent years. Wow, like, it's interesting. It went way up and then it went way down. I can't post the graph here, but it's on my blog. Anyways, it says, using data collected from Song Meanings API, we first examine whether or not drug references have become more prevalent over time. The data suggests alarmists may have a reason to worry, as the number of illicit substances mentioned in song lyrics spiked between 1970 and the mid-2000s. However, the trend took a curious dip after that time period, approaching similar levels to the early 1990s and 2013. Regardless, drug use is still mentioned far more frequently in music today than the years before MTV. This can also suggest artists are simply using less subtle ways to talk about intoxication. Is rock more drug-ridden than rap? Top 8 genres mentioning drugs. Now here's the list. At the top of the list, country came in first, then jazz, then pop. Number 4 was electronic, 5 was rock, 6 was other, 7 was folk, and 8 was rap. If you ask the casual music fan which genres are more likely to bring up recreational substance use, hip hop or contemporary electronic music are likely to be the most common answers. But according to our research, both of these styles are relatively tame. Out of 8 categories, country leads the way with a 1.6% occurrence on average, followed closely by jazz and pop music. Hip hop actually falls in last place at less than 1.3% behind folk, challenging the assumption that all rappers are lyrical drug peddlers. Musician Drug Reference Award. Will your favorite artist win? As far as weed goes, The Cottonmouth Kings had 344 references to marijuana or weed. The Game had 125 references. Cypress Hill 124 references. Bone Thugs and Harmony 113 references. Redman, my guy, 109 references. For the record, that's a lot of hip hop in there, but you gotta understand something. When the rappers are talking about drugs, they talk about it a lot, like Pusha T or Jay-Z or somebody like that. But overall, with there being so many rappers, most rappers are not just sitting around rapping about drugs. Interesting. Anyways, cocaine. Too Short had 85 references. Lil Wayne had 81 references. Eminem has 78 references. Jigga Jay-Z, my guy, has 75 references. The Game has 71 references. Ecstasy, Tyga has 72 references. Bone Thugs and Harmony has 16. Queen of the Stone Age had 15 references. Danny Brown had 13 references to Ecstasy. And Cedric Gervais, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, had 9 references. Now, as far as using acid is concerned, Cloud Dead had 50 references. Scott Niblet, 40 references. Deep Puddle Dynamics had 34 references. ASAP Rock had 30 references. He's not a rock star. ASAP Rock is an underground rapper. Eminem had 28 references. Heroin, Kent had 34 references. Kaiser's Orchestra, 32 references. Lars Winterback had 31 references. Insane Clown Posse had 28 references. And The Game had 22 references. Wow, The Game talks a lot about drugs. Now, this is where it gets tricky. This is really interesting. As far as meth is concerned, methamphetamine, Method Man has 47 references. I'm pretty sure he was just referring to his name because his name is Method Man, but they got it mixed up. Wu-Tang Clan had 38 references. They were probably just referring to Method Man, and they should not have been on this list more than likely. Anyways, Eminem had 33 references. I Set My Friends on Fire had 28 references. Insane Clown Posse had 27 references. As far as pills are concerned, Eminem has 70 references. Fauve, I don't know how to pronounce that name. Fauve, Fauve. I don't know. 67 references. The Game had 40 references. The Game, once again, Van Morrison had 39 references, and Little White had 37 references. Damn, out of how many drugs is this? 7 drugs. The Game's name popped up on 1, 2, 3, 4. So over half of the list, The Game's name is mentioned. That's crazy. He raps a lot about drugs. He's so negative. I don't mess with The Game's music. Anyways, that's how I would have never known. While country music as a whole tops the list for talking about illegal drug use, an investigation into individual artists tells a different story. Dizzle. That's why we can't be judged as a monolith. Do you see how different we are? While country music as a whole tops the list for talking about illegal drug use, an investigation into individual artists tells a different story. An analysis on the number of drug references by artists shows hip-hop dominating the field, even with drugs not typically associated with the scene. Of course, there are several notable exceptions. English rock band Kent has 34 recorded mentions of heroin in its lyrics. Fauve, or however you pronounce your name, a Swiss musician and singer, tops the pills category by suggesting their use 67 times. Which drug is mentioned the most? Okay, so here's the top 7 drugs referenced in music history. Weed, cocaine, acid, pills, meth, heroin, and ecstasy. Weed comes in at 30%. Cocaine comes in at 20%. Now, the other 5 drugs, on the other hand, are mentioned about 10% of the time, which is acid, pills, methamphetamine, heroin, and ecstasy. It's relatively easy to find a song about any drug you can imagine, but there is a very clear favorite among musicians. Cannabis. The earth-grown intoxicant is closely associated with just about every counterculture in music. From the smooth vibes of reggae to the hard-hitting beats of underground rap, Over 30% of all drug mentions in the music analyzed in our research refers to marijuana. That's Snoop Dogg. I said that part. Over 30% of all drug mentions in the music analyzed in our research refers to marijuana in one way or another. Cocaine follows at 32%, beating out acid, pills, methamphetamines, heroin, and ecstasy. The top all-time druggy artist. What top artists are singing about? Top 10 artists mentioning drugs. Cottonmouth Kings have 440 references. Eminem 305 references. The Game has 285 references. Lil Wayne has 247 references. Jay-Z has 238 references. Tech N9ne has 173 references. Too Short has 173 references. Insane Clown Posse 167 references. Bone Thugs-n-Harmony and Redman tied at 163 references. Pause the story right there. I bet you Fox News would love to quote the parts that make rap look bad, but like once again, it comes down to individuals, because rap overall is not that bad. It's just certain individuals keep talking about it. All right, just for the record. Pivoting further into drug references by individual recording artists, Cottonmouth Kings takes the gold in the top 10. For those more familiar with drug-related slang, this might not sound terribly surprising. The hip-hop band's own name is a clear giveaway, referring to one of the less celebrated effects of cannabis. Other leading contenders include the outspoken Eminem. Well, I mean, he rapped about raping his own mother. That's pretty outspoken. Who became public enemy #1 for parents troubled by lyrics regarding degenerate behavior in the late 90s and early 2000s. Additional top slots are occupied by modern hip-hop contemporaries, including The Game, Jay-Z, and Tech N9ne. Which drugs and genres go together? So here's your top drug references by genre. Rock and roll, they talked about weed the most. Second, they talked about cocaine. And third, acid. As far as pop, it was weed, ecstasy, and cocaine. Jazz, it was acid, weed, and ecstasy. Hip hop, of course, weed came in #1. #2 was cocaine, and believe it or not, #3 was methamphetamine. Folk music, cocaine, weed, and then pills. Electronic music, weed, cocaine, and then acid. Country music, it was weed, cocaine, then methamphetamine. The same as hip hop. Interesting. Country and hip hop have more in common than what they know. All other genres, it was weed, cocaine, and then finally pills. As mentioned above, marijuana is the drug of choice for musicians across almost all genres with an outlawish element. According to our data, pot is the most commonly mentioned drug in country, electronic, hip hop, pop, rock, and in miscellaneous categories. The only two exceptions are folk, which favors cocaine, or that Whitney as I would word it, and jazz, which is closely paired with acid. Some jazz musicians have even branded their sound as acid jazz, referring to a subgenre known to incorporate elements of soul, funk, and disco. The style became popular in the United Kingdom before gaining more momentum in Japan and the United States. Pause the article right there. There's also acid rap. A lot of people don't know that. There's a bunch of different subgenres of rap or hip hop. But anyways, back to the article. Conclusion. The nature of art allows and encourages musicians to explore various interpretations of personal strife, and substance abuse appears to be one of the most visible issues. If we consider art as developing downstream from culture, it's very easy to see how musicians are becoming more direct and vocal about such habits. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, illicit drug use saw an 8.2% increase between 2012 and 2013 in the United States alone. Art is a powerful way for individuals to rationalize and understand these issues, but many people require an extra push to take back control of their lives. Addictions.com provides valuable information on how those who feel they have lost their way can take the first step to recovery. The organization understands addiction is a different battle for everyone fighting it and can assist users with developing their own recovery plan. Now, the sources for song meanings API were the Huffington Post and drugabuse.gov. They posted links to that. Methodology: we scraped song lyrics from Song Meanings API for over 1.41 million songs and analyzed drug mentions, what drugs were involved, and how it changed over time. We grouped drug slang words together in their respective drug categories. Some of the drug nicknames we use in the study are as follows: acid, Adderall, Addy, Ativan, bars. Well, bars refers to rapping bars, so they may have added that. Anyway, the drug usage in rap songs may have been inflated because of that one right there. Blotter, blow, blues, blunt, bud, Buddha, chronic, Sid, cocaine, coke, crack, crank, dink, dope, dose, dosage, dro, ecstasy, gack, H, heroin, hydro, ice. This is an interesting list. Ice refers to jewelry, diamonds. You know, crack, people, that's another slang word. Dope is a slang word in hip hop. No wonder hip hop was so high up on the list, because a lot of these words refer to things that don't even have anything to do with drugs. In hip hop, there's slang words which mean other things. Anyways, so hip hop should probably be way lower on the list. Heroin, hydro, ice, joint, key, lean, Lortab, LSD, Lucy, marijuana, MDMA, meth. Remember Method Man and the Wu-Tang Clan? They shouldn't have been on that list that high. Methamphetamine, microdot, Molly, morphine, oxy, oxycontin, perk, Percocet, Percocets, piff, pill, pop, powder, perp, promethazine, roxy, speed, scissor, spliff, serp, tabs, tar, tweak, upper, volume, Vicodin, weed, white, X, and Xanax. After the lyrics were collected, we scrubbed the data by hand to make sure the lyrics were in fact about drugs and not another definition of these nicknames. Interesting. I would love to talk with them about that to see. Let me see. After the lyrics were collected, we scrubbed the data by hand to make sure the lyrics were in fact about drugs and not another definition of these nicknames. We then grouped the nicknames into 7 categories: pills, which includes all opiates except heroin, benzodiazepine, sleep medication, and ADHD medication; heroin, marijuana, LSD, cocaine, which includes both crack cocaine and cocaine; ecstasy, this includes MDMA and Molly and meth. Want to use our study? Please feel free. All we ask is that you include a link back to this page so your readers can view the full study. So there you go, my Jesus. You know, I posted a link to it on my blog. You know, I love to do that. Provide actual references for what I'm reading and explain to you guys. Sometimes I forget to post a link, but that rarely ever happens. But yeah, man, addictions.com, man. That's a very interesting article, Dizzle. So are they going to ever let rappers off the hook? Not addictions. I mean, you know, the media, which continues to slander the name of hip hop artists. Would you have ever thought that rap had the least drug references? That's crazy, right? But anyways, I'm an unapologetic hip hop fan. You know, I love hip hop. And if you don't love hip hop, I don't love you. No, I'm just kidding. Just totally kidding. But anyways, man, that was an awesome article. That was one of the best articles I've ever read in my life. But anyways, let me know what you think about it all below. Be sure to subscribe to the Meat Magazine YouTube channels. Visit meatmagazine.blogspot.com for more. Follow me on Twitter at Meat Magazine, Meat Magazine 7 on Google+, Meat Magazine blog on Instagram. Be sure to hit the notification button, which looks like a bell. It's right next to the subscribe button. When you hit the notification button, you'll be notified when new videos get posted. So then that way you know to come over here and watch and listen to me, Meat Magazine, Dizzle.